So, we're here again. Hi. I said in a video I did a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, that my future videos I would concentrate more on talking about photography, creating nice looking images, photographing people, weddings, blah 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 blah. Haven't done that yet. The reason is the last 2 weeks have been crazy busy, 6 weddings in 9 days. I've only just kind of got over that, and so back to doing a video. So we are going to talk about some of the shots I've done recently at weddings and how I got them, how I've edited them, why I took them. And whilst you might not be a wedding photographer, weddings cover so much that hopefully some of what I say will be of some use to you, and you can pick up some tips, tricks and ideas. But first, I said I wasn't going to talk much about gear, but I've got to talk about this because yesterday, pick up the right camera, eh? Yesterday, this arrived, finally. I've been waiting, that 9 days, 10 days for this, the Nikon Z8. And I know some of you are going to say, oh goodness me, not another camera, but let me explain why. Very briefly, this is just first impressions, just my thoughts, why I got it, and so on. I've been shooting weddings for 2 years now with basically either the D780, the Z6 II, or the Z5, which is now in a box ready to be sold. And that's a really good combination. It's worked really well for me and reasonably happy. I had a problem with the focusing on the Z6 II. It's not perfect. When I pick up the D780, I find I can use auto area AF, so the whole of the focus area, which admittedly it's a DSLR, so it's not the whole screen or anything, it's that sort of half sort of size box in the middle. I can put it on auto area, and within that AF area, this picks up what I want to focus on. It just seems to know what I want to focus on. If there's a face there, it will instantly pick it up. If there's, I don't know, it just seems to read my mind. I really, really love the AF on this. It's got 3D tracking. If I can switch to that, I can track maybe the bride walking up the aisle and that kind of thing. I wouldn't say it's D5 sort of standard. It's not really up there for sports or birds in flight. I wouldn't say it's quite good enough for that, but for what I do, it's brilliant. Better than the Z6 II, which it can get the shot, but it's fiddly. You've got to work at it. And for me, when I'm at a wedding, I want to think about the photo I'm taking. Where can I stand to get the best composition? Where's the light? Can I move around? Can I, and all this kind of, not, oh goodness me, I've got to change that focusing again and go to this, try that. No, that's not, can I use tracking? And by the way, the tracking on this, if it's something moving side to side, it's okay. If it's moving back and forth, forget it. I use mainly D9 if it's something moving. If they're fairly stationary, then face and eye autofocus is okay. But wedding I did not yesterday, the day before, my last one for 10 days or 2 weeks. I can remember one part of the wedding. I forget where we were, but there was a woman, a guest, 3 or 4 feet in front of me, and there were some other people 10 feet away from me. And I just wanted to get the side of this woman's face in focus and get the other people. Anyway, it would not focus on her face. She was facing me. It would not focus. It focused on people in the background. I could not get it to focus on this woman. Even if I moved the camera around and put her in the centre of the frame, hoping it would stay focused while I recomposed, didn't. Just wouldn't do it. And that is one of the problems with the existing Z cameras. They are just not consistent enough. The D780, much more reliable, much easier. as far as autofocus goes. Which brings me to the Z8. I've never used the Z9, but I've read about the autofocus on that. It's supposed to be brilliant. And I thought, for me, this may well give me the benefits of mirrorless, but with the AF of a DSLR, in fact probably better AF than a DSLR, in a camera, which has got quite a few other features as well. First of all, the Z mirrorless cameras, the Z6, it's too small. Why do they make it that small? When I went to Sony, what now, 4 years ago, I found it was too small. When I came back to Nikon after being with Sony, I got the D780, and that fits perfectly. And thank goodness, finally, we have a camera which is pretty much the same size as a D780, which is the nicest camera that I've had to work with. And there's lots of other features and functions on the Z8. It's hugely programmable. It's got twice as many, well, I'm not going to bore you. It's, for me as a wedding photographer, I believe the best camera that is available to me. If I wasn't doing weddings, I don't think I would have paid that sort of money for a Z8. You can get 45 megapixels if that's what you want from a Z7, Z7 II, D850. and I'm be honest, I'm not that fussed about 45 megapixels. I do find 24 is plenty for what I do again. But last word on the Z8. Obviously, I've only had it a few hours. I really haven't tried it out too much, but I have played with the focusing, and from first impressions, it's brilliant. It's just not on the same planet as the Z6 II. It's so different, so much better. One of the situations I find myself in often is photographing in low light, and again, I find probably the D780 is a bit better than the Z6 II for low light photography. Last night we have a hedgehog who comes in our garden. My wife puts out food for it outside the kitchen window, but he doesn't come along until it's pretty well dark. I mean, it's really dark. When you look out the window, turn the kitchen light off, look out the window, you can see the bowl because it's white, and you can just kind of see this shadow coming along, and it stops, and that's the hedgehog. You really can't make out any details. So we're talking extremely dark. Pick this up, pointed it, hit the back button focus, bing, took the shot, and it was, obviously it was 25,000 ISO, so it's not a great picture, even though we're shooting at a tenth of a second with a 1.8 lens on, so that gives you an idea of how dark it was. Obviously not a great picture, but it was definitely in focus, which is amazing. I don't see me having too many problems with first dance shots from now on with the Z8. Enough about the Z8 and cameras. What I now want to do is we're going to switch over to my computer. We'll go through Lightroom. We'll look at some shots I've taken in the last 6 weddings, as I say. I'll pick out a few. We'll go through them. I'll explain why, when, how, where, and so on. And hopefully you'll find it useful. I hope. So, welcome to Lightroom. What we're going to do is, I've got this wedding from, where are we? About a week, just over a week ago, which I've been through the 2014 photos, and I selected 24, which I very quickly edited to send over to the couple the day after the wedding. I tend to do that with pretty much every wedding, just so that they've got something to look at the day after the wedding. So these are those photos. I'm not saying these are the best photos out of the 2,000 odd, but they're the ones that I just quickly went through the library and selected. So what I'm going to do is go through 2 or 3 of these in detail to explain what I did, why I did it, and so on. But let me just quickly go through each one. Let's break that. Going to develop. The bride had actually made all the clothes hangers herself. She'd done all the printing, and so she happened to mention this at some point. And whilst I'd done shots of the bride's dress and the bridesmaids' dresses and so on, I thought it was worth just having a shot of the actual coat hangers, because she put some effort into that. The next one was interesting, and we're going to go through this one in detail. So I'd got some shots of the dress downstairs where prep was happening. I haven't got any shots of that to show you, but anyway, it was downstairs. Upstairs was the bedroom, the master suite, and the original photo when I took it looked like this. I wanted to use this room because I had windows on three sides. So there's a window over here, there's a window here, and there's a window behind me back here. So I turned the lights on and pulled the curtains on this window and the one behind me. So the only light I've got is coming from the side here, plus the two lamps here. I thought that might give a bit more interesting sort of lighting for this shot. I couldn't get into a position where I could get the bed out of the way completely, which would possibly have been a better shot. But anyway, there just wasn't space in the room. I couldn't do it. So decided to take the shot from this position, shooting with the ZX2, my zoom lens, at 2.8 wide open. So this is what the shot looked like. Now, when I edit photos, I basically have two ways of doing it. And I've got, if you look over here on my presets, I've got a dark and I've got a light and airy. They're my two main presets that I use. My preference is for light and airy. I feel light and airy is more romantic, more, I don't know, it just seems to suit weddings quite well. But that said, there are certainly some shots where dark does work better, and part of the trick is not to try and edit the photo in a way which is not sympathetic to the actual photo. Now, if you're new to Lightroom, this is not intended to be a this is how you use Lightroom video. There are thousands of those on YouTube, so if you haven't got Lightroom, if you don't know it very well, please go and watch one of the other videos that far better people than me have done. But my thought process when I go through to create a preset, and presets are what I live by. I couldn't edit 250 photos from 2000 in a reasonable space of time if I didn't use preset. If I had to do every single picture from scratch, it would be crazy. So presets are one absolutely vital element of Lightroom, and the other one is syncing photos. So we'll come on to that shortly. But if you're just starting, my very quick tips would be, first of all, get the crop right. The reason I say this is because anything you do afterwards, there will be less data for Lightroom to work on if you've done your crop first. So no, I didn't use that. What did I use? Yes, I did. Square. I'm just trying to see what I did the photo, that the finished version. What I wanted to do was to get rid of that smoke alarm in the ceiling there. Right, so I've cropped it to 4:3. So that's now got rid of that, and I'm pretty happy with that as the crop. What I now want to do is to set the white balance. That's my second thing that I normally do, because at weddings you can get all sorts of strange lighting, reflections off walls, off trees, and goodness knows what, which can affect the white balance. So you can use as shot, you can try auto. Now that for me looks a bit green, so we'll go back to a shot. I was going to say surefire, but pretty certain way of doing it is to use the colour picker here and just go to something white, which strangely enough her dress doesn't actually look very white here. This looks more white, so we'll go to there, click that, and you can be pretty certain that that is as it should be. If it doesn't look right, obviously make some adjustments. Basic adjustments which I would always do is to lift the shadows a bit and drop the highlights. Maybe lift the whites a bit and drop the blacks to get a bit more contrast. For something like this, I would increase the texture. If it's a portrait shot, then I probably wouldn't do that. I think we've got plenty of vibrance there, and really that's it. Maybe a little bit of vignetting there. So that would be a perfectly acceptable shot, and that is the way that most photographers would edit their photos. However, you can go a heck of a lot further than that, and that is what I do in my other in my dark and my light and airy templates. And basically what we're doing in those templates, presets, is separating my subject from the background so that I can do different things. So let me go to there. So my dark one, and I say dark, it's dark background, and it's going to take my crop off, of course. And it creates two masks, one of the subject, you can see in red, and whatever isn't the subject becomes the background. Now this is a bit messy because it's trying to work out what the subject is based on what's in focus, what's brightest, what's nearest, and so on and so forth. It uses some AI. This is by the way, the latest version of Lightroom Classic. I pay monthly for it, and it was updated about 2 months ago. Right, so if it's selected the subject and it's not the subject you want, you can do subtract or add and play around until you've got the thing that you want actually to be the subject highlighted and the thing you want the background to be highlighted. And the reason for doing this is we can now very, very simply change the background or change the foreground. We can work on each part of the photo. It doesn't work very well on this, but you'll see how that one in a minute where it works a lot better. So going back to, well no, let's put my light and airy one on there because that's, I think, the one I actually used. Okay, bit too bright. Probably still a bit too bright. Let's come down. Just because it says light and airy doesn't mean the actual photo has to be like that. I'm liking the look of that now. That's looking better. Also, I'm not sure. Let's just check. What are we on? 3, 4. It's changed it slightly, not very much. So that is the sort of thing that I would do for a dress shot, this particular one. If we go back to the one that I'm actually going to give them, I've done some more playing around. I'm not sure. I think I've got a... So I've got an additional... Oh yeah. What I've done is brushed on another... What I've done is created a mask here where I've brushed on another preset, which brings out the detail and texture of the dress there. And I think I've probably applied some vignettes. Yes, we've got some vignetting on there as well. So that's my editing of that particular photo and the way I took it. Let's move on to, let's move on to actually a detail shot. And I'm doing this because not all of you are going to be wedding photographers, but you may at some point need to photograph something that is in a room. You might at some point want to photograph some details. This is a shot I do at every single wedding. I take the wedding dress, I get some details, the shoes, bouquet, bits of jewellery, perfume and so on, and put them together and get a shot, which just as shot with a 35mm at a reasonably stopped down aperture, because otherwise so little is in focus it really doesn't work for this sort of shot. So that's what I started out with, and this is the end product. Actually, I'm not as I'm going through this, I see things which I need to change. The white balance, 4700, doesn't look very white to me. Goes a bit better there, that's better. That's the sort of shot that I would do for a detail shot. As I say, 35 or 50mm, not wide open, 5.6 or something around that sort of area. And again, some light, and I had light. This was in the same room, and this time I went round and I closed the curtain on this side, left hand side, opened the curtain on this side, and I think the one over here behind me, to get lighting from kind of two directions, sort of behind me and to the left here, which I thought was going to work for this shot. Let's do a person. In fact, let's do the bride. So here's the original shot. No edits done, straight out of camera. This was what we got. Now I'd asked her to stand here because, as you can guess, there was a window kind of just back over here somewhere, not to the left, not directly behind me, about 45 degrees over here, which gave some lovely light on her. And the back of the room had no windows at all apart from this one, so it was a lot darker behind her, which just makes for an interesting shot. I haven't got too much work to do to this to make this into a pretty good shot. This is the final version. For this particular shot, I decided that I would use actually my third preset. So dark is one that I do, light and airy is another one, and low green is another one. I tend to use this outside if we're in a situation where we've got lots and lots of grass and trees and it's all a bit too overpowering green wise, then I will use this. And this is a lot less complicated. It applies two masks, two radial masks. One is to make her a bit brighter, to add some... No, I've picked the wrong one, of course, sorry. This is the one on her, which adds a little bit of texture and clarity and a bit of sharpness, because I want, generally speaking, I want her to pop. Now, depending on her skin, it may be that we would need to actually do some skin softening. Jenny had some really good skin, good makeup, and I didn't need to do anything. I have a second mask which is almost identical, basically an invert of the first mask, but what this is doing is it's darkening everything outside of that circle and softening it, so it's removing texture and clarity and sharpness to just blur the background just slightly more than it is, because I wasn't shooting wide open. I was at 4.5, which, as I said earlier, this allows me to play around with the background, and it would make the background darker or lighter without really affecting her, and obviously I can do the same with the mask over her as well. And just pop on to my final one, which I'm going to talk about. I mean, there's a couple of black and white ones. Sorry, no, let's go back to this one. No, let's go to this one. Sorry. Sometimes I do a shot and I come across it in Lightroom as I'm going through to edit them, and it just says I need to be black and white. And this was one where it needed to be black and white, and one of her putting her shoes on again. So some of the shots I do, I don't look for them, I wait for them to call to me, if you like. And that one there as well, I thought looked really good in black and white. Right, the one that I was going to talk about was this shot here, where speeches, shooting at 85mm, and I liked the shot. When I saw it, when I was actually standing there, I thought, well, if I can get him in one corner and these guys in the other corner, remember, this is a real wedding. I'm walking in between tables, tiptoeing, knocking people on the back of the head with my camera. I have to be careful. There's a limit to where you can get to, and this was about the best place I could get to, which unfortunately had this young lady's head sticking right up in the middle. But don't worry, we can fix that. I liked the sort of context between him and them, and I did shoot it not quite wide open, but nearly wide open, because I wanted them in the picture, but not to be a focus of the picture. I wanted to focus on him, but the context is that here's the bride and groom, this is the best man doing the speech. I edited that, and I've changed the crop to something quite extreme, actually. I like, come on, where is it? 1 by 1.95, so it's almost a 2 by 1 crop. I like some shots like that. They work well in the wedding album if this one gets included in, and if they don't choose it for the album, I certainly will. So just finish off by talking about another piece of software that I use, not a lot, but it comes in very useful. This young lady's head, and I've got a bit of a I think it was the bottom of an air conditioning unit there, and I've got a bit of a dark smudge over here. Lightroom has got the healing brush thing tool, and it's even now got the content aware option, as well as the healing and the spot and the clone. None of these work particularly well. I'm not going to bother showing you, but I tried in Lightroom to actually get rid of her head, and you end up, it gets rid of the detail, but you end up with a big brown smudge. So there's another piece of software, and that is called InPixio. Sorry, hope you can see it down there. InPixio Photo Pro or something like that, I think it is. And that allows you to do some pretty amazing things, and it works a million times better than Lightroom, and I think it's relatively inexpensive. Let me try and pick something where maybe I want to do some editing. If I wanted to do some editing on this, maybe we'll take that spotlight out. It is very, very simple to do. Simply highlight that, and this works just brilliantly. It just works, simple as that. It does take a moment, plus of course I'm recording, I've got Lightroom open and God knows how many other programs, and you can see it's just totally replaced that perfectly, and it tends to do that all the time. I can thoroughly recommend it, and of course for things like spots and blemishes and anything like that, it's absolutely perfect. So that's the end of my video for today. I want to do another video where I talk more about actually capturing the shot, and I'll try on my next wedding to do maybe one section of video where I'm actually focused on doing a video for you guys. Also give me a chance to talk about my new Z8 camera. So I look forward to that. It's going to be a few days because I haven't got a wedding now for about just over a week. So I will be back with you shortly after that. In the meantime, I hope you enjoyed that, and thanks for watching.